A cowboy saved one native child. By sunrise, her entire tribe stood guard outside his ranch. Welcome back to our channel, where we bring you the most incredible true stories from America's frontier. Before we dive into today's remarkable tale of courage, honor, and unexpected alliances in the Old West, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our amazing stories. And please, let us know in the comments where you're listening from. We love hearing from our global community. Today's story will remind you that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can change everything. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's journey back to 1887 Wyoming Territory, where one cowboy's compassion would forge an unbreakable bond between two worlds. Chapter 1. The Storm and the Discovery. The wind howled across the Wyoming plains like a banshee, carrying with it the promise of a brutal winter storm. Sam McKenna pulled his worn leather coat tighter around his shoulders as he guided his horse through the increasingly treacherous terrain. The 32-year-old rancher had been checking his fence lines when the weather turned, and now darkness was falling fast over his modest spread near the Wind River. Sam's ranch wasn't much to look at: a simple log cabin, a weathered barn, and about 200 head of cattle scattered across the wind-swept grassland. He'd built it all himself after the war, using his army savings and backbreaking labor. Unlike many of his neighbors, Sam had always tried to maintain peaceful relations with the local Shoshone tribe, respecting the boundaries they'd established and never encroaching on their traditional hunting grounds. As lightning split the sky, Sam's horse whinnied nervously. That's when he heard it, a faint crying sound carried on the wind. He pulled back on the reins, straining to listen over the storm's fury. There it was again, definitely human, and it sounded like a child. "Easy, Belle," he murmured to his mare, dismounting and following the sound toward a cluster of rocks near a dried creek bed. The crying grew louder, more desperate. Sam's heart pounded as he realized someone was in serious trouble. Behind a large boulder, he found her, a Native American girl, no more than 8 years old, huddled against the stone for shelter. Her traditional dress was torn and muddy, her long black hair tangled with debris. She was shivering violently, her lips blue from cold, and her right leg was clearly injured, bent at an unnatural angle. The girl looked up at Sam with large, frightened, dark eyes. She said something in Shoshone, her voice barely audible over the wind. Sam didn't speak the language, but he understood fear when he saw it. "Hey there, little one," Sam said softly, removing his coat and kneeling down slowly. "I'm not going to hurt you. You're hurt, aren't you?" The girl shrank back against the rock, but she was too weak to move far. Sam could see she was in shock, probably had been out in the elements for hours. Without hesitation, he wrapped his coat around her small frame. "I know you can't understand me," he continued in the same gentle tone, "but I'm going to get you somewhere warm and safe. I promise." As he carefully lifted the girl, she whimpered in pain but didn't resist. She was so light, so fragile in his arms. Sam felt a surge of protective instinct he hadn't experienced since his younger sister had died of fever years ago. The ride back to his cabin was treacherous. The storm had intensified, and Sam had to navigate by instinct and familiarity with his own land. The girl drifted in and out of consciousness, occasionally murmuring words he couldn't understand. By the time they reached the ranch, both were soaked to the bone and frozen. Sam kicked open his cabin door and immediately set about building up the fire in his stone fireplace. He laid the girl on his own bed, covering her with every blanket he owned. Her breathing was shallow and rapid, clear signs of hypothermia and shock. Working by lamplight, Sam examined her injured leg as gently as possible. It was definitely broken, but thankfully it didn't appear to be a compound fracture. He'd learned basic field medicine during his time as a cavalry scout, and while he was no doctor, he knew enough to set simple breaks. "This is going to hurt, sweetheart," he whispered, even though she couldn't understand. "But it'll help you heal." Using strips torn from an old shirt and 2 pieces of kindling, Sam fashioned a crude but effective splint. The girl cried out when he set the bone, but she didn't struggle. There was something in her eyes, a wisdom and strength that seemed far beyond her years. After securing the splint, Sam heated water and carefully cleaned her other scrapes and cuts. He found some preserved beef stew from his supplies and warmed it over the fire. When he offered her the spoon, she hesitated, then began to eat slowly, watching him warily the entire time. As the night wore on, the girl's shivering gradually subsided. The warmth of the fire and dry clothes, one of Sam's old shirts that hung like a dress on her small frame, had probably saved her life. Sam settled into his wooden chair by the fire, keeping watch through the night as the storm raged outside. He couldn't stop thinking about how she'd ended up alone in the wilderness during such dangerous weather. Had she been separated from her family during the storm? Lost? The questions troubled him, but one thing was certain: she was safe now, and he would make sure she stayed that way until he could reunite her with her people. Chapter 2: Building Trust. Dawn broke grey and overcast, the storm having finally exhausted itself during the early morning hours. Sam woke from his uncomfortable sleep in the chair to find the girl sitting up in bed, watching him with those same cautious dark eyes. She looked much better in the daylight. Her color had returned, and though she was obviously still in pain from her broken leg, she seemed alert and aware. "Good morning," Sam said softly, rising and stretching his stiff back. "How are you feeling?" The girl tilted her head slightly, but didn't respond. Sam moved slowly to the stove and began preparing breakfast. Nothing fancy, just biscuits, bacon, and coffee. He could feel her eyes following his every movement. When he offered her a plate of food, she hesitated before accepting it. Sam noticed she ate with perfect manners, despite using her hands rather than the utensils he provided. This was clearly a child who had been well raised and loved. After breakfast, Sam tried a different approach to communication. He pointed to himself and said clearly, "Sam, Sam." Then he pointed to her questioningly. The girl studied him for a long moment, then pointed to herself and said something that sounded like Ayana. She repeated it more slowly when she saw his confusion. Ayana. Ayana, Sam repeated, and was rewarded with the smallest hint of a smile. "That's a beautiful name." Over the next few hours, they continued this basic communication. Sam showed her around his small cabin, explaining things by pointing and naming them. Ayana proved to be incredibly intelligent, picking up English words with remarkable speed. By afternoon, she could say water, fire, horse, and hurt when referring to her leg. Sam fashioned a pair of crude crutches from branches he found near the cabin, adjusting them to her small size. Ayana tested them carefully, and though movement was obviously painful, she managed to hobble around the cabin with determination that impressed Sam greatly. As the day progressed, Sam found himself growing increasingly attached to the brave little girl. She had an infectious curiosity about everything in his cabin: the books on his shelf, his shaving mirror, even his old army uniform hanging in the corner. When she discovered his harmonica, her face lit up with the first real smile he'd seen from her. Sam played a simple tune, and Ayana clapped her hands in delight. Then she began to sing along in her native language, her clear voice creating a hauntingly beautiful melody that gave Sam chills. For a moment, the barriers of language and culture disappeared entirely, but as evening approached, Sam knew he had to face the reality of the situation. Ayana's family would be looking for her, and they needed to know she was safe. The problem was he had no idea how to contact the Shoshone tribe without potentially creating a dangerous misunderstanding. Relations between the white settlers and the local tribes were tense at best. Many of his neighbors would shoot first and ask questions later if they encountered Native Americans on their property. Sam was one of the few ranchers in the area who had maintained peaceful relations with the Shoshone, mainly by respecting their boundaries and occasionally trading supplies for furs. He remembered hearing about a trading post about 20 miles north where a man named Joseph Broken Bear, who was half Shoshone and half white, sometimes served as a translator and mediator between the communities. If Sam could get word to him, perhaps he could help reunite Ayana with her family safely. That evening, as Sam prepared their dinner, Ayana suddenly became agitated. She hobbled to the window on her crutches and peered out into the gathering darkness, speaking rapidly in Shoshone. Sam couldn't understand her words, but her tone was clear. She was worried about something or someone. "What is it, Ayana?" Sam asked, joining her at the window. "What do you see?" She pointed toward the northern hills and said something that included the word family. Sam's heart sank as he realized the truth. She wasn't just lost or separated from her family. She was desperately worried about them. probably wondering if they were safe from the same storm that had nearly killed her. That night, Sam made a decision. First thing in the morning, he would ride to the trading post and get word to Joseph Broken Bear. Ayanna needed to be reunited with her family as soon as possible, not just for her sake, but for theirs as well. He could only imagine the anguish her parents must be experiencing. As Ayanna finally fell asleep in his bed, he had insisted she keep it while he slept on the floor. Sam stared up at the ceiling and reflected on how much his life had changed in just 2 days. This brave little girl had awakened something in him he thought he'd lost forever. The ability to care deeply about another person's well-being. Whatever happened next, he knew he would do everything in his power to see her safely home. Chapter 3. The Search and the Message. Sam rose before dawn, moving quietly so as not to wake Ayanna. He prepared a simple breakfast and left it where she could reach it, along with a note containing basic pictures, a horse, the sun, and a drawing of himself with an arrow pointing away from the cabin, then pointing back. He hoped she would understand that he was leaving but would return. The ride to Broken Bear's trading post took him through some of the most beautiful and dangerous territory in Wyoming. The storm had left the landscape transformed. Fresh snow dusted the peaks, and the air was so clear he could see for miles. But Sam barely noticed the scenery. His mind was focused on Ayanna and the growing certainty that her disappearance had sparked a major search effort among her people. The trading post sat in a small valley where 3 trails converged, making it a natural meeting place for travelers, trappers, and traders from various communities. Sam had been there only a few times, but Joseph Broken Bear had always struck him as an honorable man who genuinely cared about maintaining peace between the different groups in the territory. Sam was relieved to see smoke rising from the post's chimney as he approached. Joseph emerged from the log building as Sam dismounted, his weathered face showing curiosity and caution. "Sam McKenna," Joseph said in accented English, extending his hand. "Been a while. What brings you out this way?" "I need your help, Joseph," Sam said, accepting the handshake. "It's urgent." Over strong coffee inside the warm trading post, Sam told Joseph everything that had happened. He described finding Ayanna, her injuries, and her obvious distress about her family. Joseph listened intently, his expression growing more serious with each detail. "You described the daughter of Chief Running Wolf," Joseph said when Sam finished. "Ayanna is his youngest child, very precious to him and to the entire band. They have been searching for her since the storm began 3 days ago." Sam felt a wave of relief mixed with urgency. 3 days? Then they must be frantic with worry. "More than that," Joseph replied grimly. "Some of the young warriors wanted to search the white settlements, thinking she might have been taken. Chief Running Wolf has been holding them back, but his patience is not unlimited. If she is not found soon—" He didn't need to finish the sentence. Sam understood the implications perfectly. The situation could easily escalate into violence if the Shoshone believed that white settlers were responsible for Ayanna's disappearance. "Can you get word to them?" Sam asked. "Let them know she's safe." Joseph nodded. "I can reach them by nightfall if I leave now. But Sam, you must understand, they will want to see her immediately. Chief Running Wolf will need to know that she is truly unharmed." "Of course," Sam agreed. "Should I bring her here to meet them?" Joseph considered this carefully. "No, it would be better if they come to your ranch. Moving a child with a broken leg is not wise. And besides—" He paused, studying Sam's face. "Chief Running Wolf will want to see for himself the man who saved his daughter. He will want to thank you properly." The 2 men spent another hour discussing the details. Joseph would ride immediately to find Chief Running Wolf's band and deliver the message. Sam would return to his ranch and wait. Joseph warned him that the Shoshone party would likely arrive sometime during the night or early morning. They would not wait for a more convenient time once they knew Ayanna was safe. "One more thing, Sam," Joseph said, as they prepared to part ways. "Chief Running Wolf is a man of great honor, but he is also very protective of his family. He will want to understand exactly how and why you helped Ayanna. Be prepared to tell your story completely and honestly." The ride back to his ranch seemed to take forever. Sam found himself pushing Belle harder than usual, anxious to check on Ayanna and to prepare for what would certainly be one of the most important encounters of his life. When he arrived at his cabin, he was relieved to hear Ayanna's voice inside. She was sitting by the fire, and she looked up with obvious relief when he entered. "Sam," she said, one of the English words she'd learned. Then she launched into rapid Shoshonean, clearly asking where he'd been. Sam sat down beside her and, using his limited vocabulary of Shoshone words and a lot of gestures, tried to explain that help was coming. When he said family, her face transformed with hope and joy. She understood that he had somehow contacted her people. For the rest of the day, Ayana was almost vibrating with excitement and nervous energy. She hobbled around the cabin on her crutches, occasionally going to the window to peer out toward the northern hills. Sam spent the time cleaning his cabin more thoroughly than he had in months and preparing extra food. He had no idea how many people would come with Chief Running Wolf, but he wanted to be ready to offer proper hospitality. As darkness fell, both Sam and Ayana became increasingly alert to every sound outside. The wind in the trees, the movement of his cattle. Even the call of night birds made them both look toward the door in anticipation. It was near midnight when Belle nickered softly from the corral, followed by the sound of many horses approaching. Sam felt his heart rate increase as he realized the moment had arrived. Chief Running Wolf and his people had come for Ayana. Sam opened his cabin door and stepped outside, his hands visible and empty, in what he hoped was a gesture of peaceful intent. In the moonlight, he could see at least a dozen mounted figures arranged in a semicircle around his cabin. One rider moved forward, and even in the dim light, Sam could see this was a man of obvious authority and dignity. Chief Running Wolf had arrived. Chapter 4. The Meeting of Two Worlds. Chief Running Wolf dismounted slowly, his movements graceful despite his obvious age. He was a tall man, probably in his 50s, with long graying hair and a face that spoke of both wisdom and the weight of leadership. He wore traditional Shoshone clothing decorated with intricate beadwork, and carried himself with the natural authority of someone accustomed to making life and death decisions for his people. Behind him, Sam could make out the silhouettes of other tribal members, including several younger men who were clearly warriors. Their horses stamped and snorted in the cold night air, creating small clouds of vapor that added to the surreal atmosphere of the encounter. For a long moment, the two men studied each other across the space between cultures, languages, and ways of life. Sam was acutely aware that this meeting could go very wrong very quickly if he made a mistake, but before he could speak, the cabin door opened behind him. "Father." Ayana's clear voice cut through the tension like a knife. Chief Running Wolf's stoic expression cracked, revealing a flash of overwhelming relief and joy. Ayana hobbled out on her crutches, moving as quickly as her injured leg would allow. Sam stepped aside as she threw herself into her father's arms, both of them speaking rapidly in Shoshone. Sam watched the reunion with a mixture of happiness and melancholy. He was thrilled to see Ayana back with her family, but he was also surprised by how much he was going to miss her bright presence in his cabin. After several minutes of emotional conversation between father and daughter, Chief Running Wolf gently set Ayana down and turned his attention to Sam. When he spoke, his English was accented but clear. "I am Chief Running Wolf of the Eastern Shoshone. This is my daughter, Ayana. She tells me you saved her life." "I'm Sam McKenna," Sam replied, uncertain of the proper protocol. "I was just glad I found her when I did. That storm was brutal." Chief Running Wolf studied Sam's face intently. "She tells me you set her broken leg, that you gave her your own bed, that you shared your food. She says you treated her as you would treat your own daughter." Sam felt heat rise in his cheeks. Any decent person would have done the same. "No," Chief Running Wolf said firmly. "Not any person. Many of your people fear us, hate us. Some would have left a Shoshone child to die in the storm. You chose differently." "Why?" The question hung in the cold night air. Sam looked at Ayana, who was watching him with those intelligent, dark eyes, then back at her father. "Because she's just a little girl who needed help," Sam said simply. "Her people, my people, none of that mattered when I saw her hurt and scared. She was just a child who needed someone to care." Chief Running Wolf nodded slowly, as if Sam had passed some kind of test. He turned and spoke to his companions in Shoshone. Several of them dismounted and began setting up what appeared to be a temporary camp near Sam's cabin. "We will stay until dawn," Chief Running Wolf announced. "Ayana's leg must be examined by our medicine woman, and there are arrangements to be made." "Arrangements?" Sam asked. Instead of answering directly, Chief Running Wolf gestured toward Sam's cabin. "May we go inside? There is much to discuss." Sam nodded and led the way, feeling increasingly puzzled by the chief's cryptic comments. Inside the warm cabin, Chief Running Wolf examined the splint Sam had made for Ayana's leg, testing its stability and asking his daughter detailed questions about her pain and mobility. "You did well," he told Sam finally. "The bone is set properly. She will heal completely." An elderly Shoshone woman entered the cabin and immediately went to Ayana, speaking softly as she conducted her own examination. This was clearly the medicine woman Chief Running Wolf had mentioned. After several minutes, she nodded approvingly and spoke to the chief in their native language. "White Dove confirms that you probably saved Ayana's life," Chief Running Wolf translated. "Without proper warmth and care, she would not have survived the night." Sam felt a wave of relief, though he tried not to show it. "I'm just glad she's going to be all right." Chief Running Wolf was quiet for a long moment, studying the simple interior of Sam's cabin. His gaze lingered on the books, the carefully maintained rifle, the small but neat cooking area. "You live alone," he observed. "Yes, sir. Have for about 5 years now." "You are not married?" Sam shook his head. "Never found the right woman, I guess." Chief Running Wolf nodded thoughtfully. "In our tradition, when someone saves the life of a tribal member, especially a child, they become family. They become part of our protection, our responsibility." Sam wasn't sure how to respond to that. That's very kind, but I don't expect anything in return. I just did what anyone should do." "That is exactly why you deserve our protection," Chief Running Wolf replied. "Ayana has told me that you sang to her, that you made her laugh even though she was hurt and afraid. You showed her kindness when you could have shown her fear or hatred. Such actions create bonds that cannot be broken." As if to demonstrate this point, Ayana hobbled over to Sam and took his hand, speaking earnestly to her father in Shoshone. Chief Running Wolf smiled, the first time Sam had seen him do so. "She says you are her white father now, and she wants to know if she can visit you." Sam felt his throat tighten with unexpected emotion. "She's welcome here any time," he managed to say. "Good," Chief Running Wolf said, rising from his chair, "because tomorrow you will discover what it truly means to be under the protection of the Shoshone." With that cryptic statement, he gathered Ayana in his arms and carried her outside to rejoin his people. Sam stood in his doorway, watching as the Shoshone set up their camp. Whatever Chief Running Wolf had planned, Sam had the feeling his quiet life on the Wyoming frontier was about to change dramatically. Chapter 5. Honor and Protection. Sam woke before dawn to the sound of many voices outside his cabin. He dressed quickly and stepped outside to find a sight that took his breath away. Where there had been 12 Shoshone the night before, there were now at least 50. Warriors, women, children, and elders filled the area around his cabin and corral. They had arrived silently during the night, and now they stood in organized groups, all facing his cabin. Chief Running Wolf approached, carrying Ayana, who looked much better in the morning light. Her leg was now splinted with traditional materials that looked much more professional than Sam's improvised first aid. "Sam McKenna," Chief Running Wolf said formally, his voice carrying across the assembled crowd. "Yesterday you saved the life of my daughter. Today we honor that debt." Sam looked around at all the faces watching him, some curious and some grateful, all respectful. "Chief, this really isn't necessary. I just did what anyone would do." "No," came a new voice. Joseph Broken Bear emerged from the crowd, smiling broadly. "This is very necessary. You're about to receive one of the highest honors our people can give." Chief Running Wolf set Ayana down gently, then turned to address his people in Shoshone. The speech went on for several minutes, and Sam caught his own name several times, as well as Ayana's. When the chief finished, a cheer went up from the assembled tribe. "What did he say?" Sam asked Joseph. "He told them the whole story. How you found Ayana, how you cared for her, how you immediately sought to return her to her family instead of seeking reward or recognition. He has declared you protector friend of the tribe." Sam felt overwhelmed. "What does that mean exactly?" Joseph's grin widened. "It means that from this day forward, you are under the permanent protection of the Eastern Shoshone. Any threat to you becomes a threat to the entire tribe. Your land, your cattle, your property. All of it is now protected as if it belonged to Chief Running Wolf himself." As if to demonstrate this point, several warriors began riding the perimeter of Sam's ranch, clearly establishing a patrol pattern. Others were examining his fence lines and the condition of his cattle with the experienced eyes of people who understood ranching. Chief Running Wolf approached Sam again, this time carrying a beautiful beaded vest and a silver pendant shaped like an eagle. "These belong to you now," he said, placing the vest in Sam's hands. "The vest was made by Ayana's mother before she died. The pendant has been in my family for 4 generations. They mark you as family, as protector, as friend." Sam was speechless. The vest was a work of art, with intricate beadwork in blues and whites that seemed to shimmer in the morning light. The silver pendant was warm to the touch and beautifully crafted. I don't know what to say," Sam stammered. "This is too much." "It is not enough," Chief Running Wolf replied firmly. "But it is what we can give." Ayana hobbled over on her new crutches and spoke to her father. He nodded and translated for Sam. "She wants to know if you will teach her to play the harmonica when her leg heals. She says music is a language that needs no words." Sam knelt down to Ayana's level, pulling the harmonica from his pocket. "How about I give you this one, and when you're better, you can come visit and we'll play together." Ayana's face lit up with pure joy as she accepted the harmonica. She immediately tried to play it, producing a few squeaky notes that made everyone laugh. Over the next hour, Sam was introduced to what felt like half the tribe. Warriors clasped his hand and spoke words he didn't understand, but that clearly conveyed respect and friendship. The women smiled and nodded, some offering small gifts of food or handmade items. The children stared at him with wide-eyed curiosity, and the elders studied him with approval. Joseph explained that word of Sam's actions had spread quickly through the tribal network. "Stories like this travel fast among our people. By next week, every Shoshone, Arapaho, and Crow band in the territory will know about the white rancher who saved Chief Running Wolf's daughter." As the sun climbed higher, the tribe began to prepare for departure, but not all of them were leaving. Chief Running Wolf informed Sam that a small group of warriors would be staying in the area permanently, ostensibly to hunt and trade, but actually to keep an eye on Sam's ranch and ensure his safety. "This isn't necessary," Sam protested one more time. "I can take care of myself." "It is not about what you can do," Chief Running Wolf explained patiently. "It is about what we must do. Honor demands it. Gratitude demands it. And besides," he added with another rare smile, "Ayana would never forgive me if anything happened to her white father." As the main group prepared to leave, Ayana hugged Sam tightly, whispering something in Shoshone that Joseph translated as, "Thank you for saving me and for making me feel safe." Chief Running Wolf mounted his horse and looked down at Sam one final time. "Sam McKenna, you showed mercy to a child who was not your own, kindness to a stranger who could give you nothing in return. This is the mark of a man worthy of respect. The Shoshone do not forget such actions." As the tribe rode away, leaving only the small group of guardian warriors behind, Sam stood in front of his cabin holding Ayana's gifts and trying to process everything that had just happened. In the space of 3 days, his entire life had changed. He was no longer just a solitary rancher trying to make a living on the frontier. He was now part of something larger, a family, a community, a bond that transcended the boundaries of race and culture, all because he had chosen to help a frightened little girl in a storm. Sam looked down at the beaded vest in his hands, thinking about Ayana's mother, whom he would never meet, who had created this beautiful work of art that was now his to treasure. He thought about Chief Running Wolf's wisdom and dignity, about the warriors who were even now taking up positions to protect his land, about the incredible honor that had been bestowed upon him. Most of all, he thought about Ayana, brave, intelligent, loving Ayana, who had taught him that sometimes the most important thing you can do is simply care about another person's well-being, regardless of who they are or where they come from. As he watched the dust cloud from the departing tribe fade into the distance, Sam realized that while he had saved one little girl's life, she and her people had saved something in him as well. His faith in the possibility of understanding, respect, and genuine friendship between people who seemed to have nothing in common except their shared humanity. From that day forward, Sam McKenna's ranch became known throughout the territory as a place of peace and safety, where all people were welcome and where the ancient codes of honor and hospitality were still respected. And whenever travelers asked about the beaded vest he always wore, or the silver eagle pendant that caught the light as he worked, Sam would smile and tell them the story of a little girl named Ayana, who taught him that the smallest acts of kindness can create bonds stronger than blood and friendships that last forever. The story of the cowboy who saved one native child, and how by sunrise her entire tribe stood guard outside his ranch, became legend in the Wyoming Territory. A reminder that in a harsh and often unforgiving land, compassion and honor could still triumph over fear and prejudice. Conclusion. And that's the incredible true story of Sam McKenna and Ayana, a tale that reminds us that kindness knows no boundaries, and that sometimes the most important thing we can do is simply help another human being in need. The bond forged between Sam and the Shoshone tribe lasted for decades, and their story became a powerful example of how understanding and respect can bridge any divide. If this story touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who could use a reminder about the power of compassion. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more amazing true stories from America's frontier. And let us know in the comments what you thought of Sam and Ayana's story. We love hearing from you. Until next time, remember that every act of kindness, no matter how small, has the power to change lives forever. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.